Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my new video where we are going to go over 5 kind of uncommon, a little bit different Kassadin tips that are hopefully going to help you out in your Kassadin play. Now, this is predominantly going to be geared towards lower elo players, as that is my specialty on my channel, is helping people climb out of the low elos of Iron, Bronze, Silver, Gold, and Platinum. So, if you have any questions for me, I try to be as interactive as possible. You can hit me up here in the comments down below or on Twitch and Discord. I'll put a link for both of those. Also, whenever someone is a big Kassadin player or a big player of the champion of the video that I'm making, I really like to see your tips. If you have any tips for Kassadin, I'd love to hear your thoughts, guys, because I'm limited to this format and I don't really want to make these videos 30 minutes to like an hour trying to cover everything I know about Kassadin. So I'd love to hear your tips down below. And yeah, if you're new to the channel, my name is LolFit. I do educational content. I do guide videos, tip videos, and also opposition reports on how to deal with particular champions. So make sure to follow, like, and subscribe the video if you enjoyed the content, and let's jump right into the video. Alright, and let's jump into tip number 1 now. This whole tip is going to be focused around getting yourself out of the laning phase, and the best way to equip yourself for getting out of that laning phase is this rune setup right here. Now, there might be some expert players that might be like, oh, I sometimes run electrocute in particular matchups, but if you are in lower elo and you're focusing on climbing, I think this is the optimal setup. It provides you a lot of sustain through the fleet footwork autos, the Ravenous Hunter, and the Taste of Blood being extremely strong, and the Taste of Blood being very easy to proc on your Q. So the number 1 key with Kassadin is to get out of that early game, and this is what is going to allow you to do it. You really want to focus on just being able to sustain throughout the lane. Because of your extremely low armor level at level 1, he did get a recent nerf where he only has 19 armor, so this means you're going to be taking a lot of damage from auto attacks and from champions like Talon, like Yasuo, like Aatrox, that can really bully you quite hard in the mid lane. So just being very cognizant of this should let you know that, hey, unless I am very comfortable in the matchup, you know the different damage thresholds on the different levels, you should be playing a little bit more passive with Kassadin in the early game, because it's going to be a rather large risk to kind of maybe potentially give someone a snowball by giving them an early all-in on you. So just understand that you want to play a little bit defensive in the early game if it is a tough matchup. There are some matchups where Kassadin can go aggressive in the early levels, but overall you shouldn't really be risking it too much. Now, with the most recent buff of Rod of Ages, this is going to be extremely good for Kassadin, because Rod of Ages is sometimes considered a key item with Kassadin. That is only 2600 gold is very nice, because you are going to get pressured off quite a few minions, and having a cheaper bag is going to be great for Kassadin. Now, the second part of just kind of your base setup you want to do, you probably want to be going teleport. It's going to be a little bit better of a room, because you're going to be able to get back when you get pushed out of lane and kind of bridge that early game thing. But if you're in a matchup, say you're against something like I don't know, sometimes you can run Kassadin into like Katarina and do pretty well, because she does a lot of magic damage. You're able to stop her channel with the null sphere. You can look for those early all-ins with Ignite. So just really think out how the matchups are going to go, how the plays are going to go, how the all-ins are going to go. And if you can get away with the early Ignite and you think you can snowball the lane, maybe try it out once or twice if you're really comfortable in the matchup. But if you're not doing that, you should be going teleport and this very defensive setup. And that will wrap up tip number 1 with Kassadin. Alright, and jumping into tip number 2, I want to talk about something that a lot of people kind of forget, because you're not playing like maybe a true assassin, you're not playing something like a Zed, you're not playing something like a Kha'Zix, but you really want to take advantage of the fog of war when you are playing Kassadin, particularly when you are ahead and it is in the later part of the game and looking for picks, because of your ability to really just do a crap load of damage in a very short period of time with Kassadin. So how you set this up is you just want to look to put these plays around objectives, whether it be the Baron Rift Herald up top or the Dragon in the bottom. How we do this is just by placing a control ward or by using a sweeper, and this can be a really effective way to look for picks when you are playing Kassadin. This is going to allow a very unexpected jump on people that are going to be rather squishy and that you can one-shot in the later periods of the game. So always make sure to take advantage of the brush and just look for a combo in something similar to that. There are a lot of different ways you can approach it, but just really remember that you can play Kassadin like an assassin. He isn't just an anti-mage melee AP bruiser. He is also can be played as an assassin. A lot of people really don't focus on getting picks like this on Kassadin, so make sure that you are taking full advantage of his rather strong kit and his ability to chase people down with RIFTWALK and getting these slow on the E. Also, the Null Sphere can come in handy when chasing people down if they have a channeled gap closer like Vi. You can stop that and make sure to close that down. So also, when you are feeling pretty strong with Kassadin, you can look for roams and also play around vision like this. If you have, say, you're level 11, you hit a little bit of a power spike, you feel like you're stronger than the enemy mage that you're playing against in the mid lane, and you just can sit in the bush right here and wait for them to come out away from their tower and chase them down with your RIFTWALKs. But just really make sure when you're playing Kassadin to wait for the last possible moment if you feel like you can beat them easily in the 1v1, and make sure they get as close to you as possible, and getting them into melee range is going to be quite effective when you are playing Kassadin. So those are just kind of two little tricks that can give you quite a few kills. I know they seem a little bit basic with a lot of champions that can do it, like bruisers and assassins, any melee champion, or I mean even some mage champions can do setups from Fog of War, but this is something I very rarely see Kassadin players do, and I see the good Kassadin players doing this at all times. So try this out in your next game if you are doing well on Kassadin. Alright, and jumping into tip number 3, I just want to talk about something really quick that is might be a little bit simple to quite a few players, but the newer players might not know about this, and that is just extending your RIFTWALK range with your ultimate. As it is kind of a channeled ability, you can do a R flash and increase the range of your ultimate, and making sure that you get a little bit more damage on it. So for example, right here, we're gonna RIFTWALK, flash, and the RIFTWALK damage goes off on him there, and this can provide quite a bit of unexpected damage and a lot of ground covered. So if you're against a lot of immobile champions, this can be rather strong. Now I just want to talk about this real quick as an engagement tool. Say there are 4 or 5 champions right here that are all extremely strong, and you need to be very careful, but you want to look for an engage because your team is winning most of the fights. So how you want to do this, at least how I have seen a lot of good players do this, and how I've done it a few times myself, is to do the R flash in with the E, and then you can Zhonya's if you're under a lot of instant threat, like something that a Malzahar that can lock you down quite quickly, or just a really strong anti-engage or disengage comp, maybe something like a Zyra that's just waiting for you to R in, and then throw in the full combo and looking to one-shot you. So just have a good understanding of what is required of you in a team fight. If you are the primary engage, which would be a very poor situation for Kassadin, you can look for this because of the 90% slow that is on your force pulse. It can really open up a lot of very strong team fights for your team, and once your Zhonya's is up, you'll be able to RIFTWALK it either way. But just if you're looking to start off a team fight, this is the absolute safest way to do it, and it can cover quite a huge range. You don't, obviously, if you're not under too much threat, you do not have to use your Zhonya's. You can maybe look for your Seraph Shield, maybe play out the fight a little bit more, and then Zhonya's. So this is just kind of maybe like a classic, like there are some builds with Twisted Fate where you just kind of ult in, get a gold card, and then Zhonya's. This is very similar where you just get a rather large AoE slow on people. So again, just one more time, it is R flash E, and then a Zhonya's can be a rather strong engage tool, and then just using your Zhonya's depending on how much threat you're under. If there's something like a Mal fight, a lot of CC that can go on top of you, you might want to look to Zhonya's early. And just depending on how the fight goes, this is just going to come down to game knowledge. So just kind of experimenting and trying to pull off these kind of engages with your force pulse can really pay a lot of dividends after a while of playing Kassadin. And that'll wrap up tip number 3. Alright, and then jumping into the next tip with Kassadin, I heavily encourage new Kassadin players to go into the practice tool like I am right here and look at the RIFTWALK ability and just get very used to what walls you can R over. Now this becomes extremely important when you are in the laning phase at level 6 and say you're getting kind of dumpster in lane, which tends to happen sometimes on Kassadin, and maybe you're getting dove. What you want to be able to know is that the different ranges of your RIFTWALK, and this would be just an extremely easy get out of jail free card because this is an extremely large wall, and then obviously it can be done on the other side as well. So just have a good understanding of your different outs with RIFTWALK is going to be rather important, and which walls you can jump over in different ways with RIFTWALK is going to pay off a lot. Just a few minutes in the practice tool can really help you quite a bit, letting you know how far you can go over the walls and which walls you're able to RIFTWALK over is going to pay a lot of dividends. So just really practice around. Obviously, you can be on this side of the wall or this side of the lane when you're playing Kassadin and jump over either of the walls. So just have a good understanding of the different walls and what you can jump over. Also, the different parts of the Baron Pit are going to be rather important when you are looking to contest objectives and look for picks. Also, this will help you when you are trying to get away, trying to create the most distance by jumping over the fattest possible wall, and trying to create as much distance as possible is going to be rather big for Kassadin, as he can be quite slippery with his ultimate. So just really go into the practice tool and just go around RIFTWALKing everywhere and making sure that you know every which way you can RIFTWALK with Kassadin. And that will wrap up this tip. Alright, and getting into the last tip for Kassadin, what I wanted to talk about is the different play styles that you can look to do in lane. When you are playing against something like for example, like a Xerath, where it's just going to be a very poke-heavy matchup, a Q-Max is going to be obviously the strongest matchup. But if you're against something that is going to be a little bit stronger, a little bit more melee, a little bit more all-in combo, sometimes it might be better to max the E because it is going to provide quite a strong trade for you when you are looking to fight, and you're not going to be able to get as much poke because if you come up for your no magic shield, they might just jump on you with their gap closer. So just having a good understanding of what you should be maxing depending on the matchup will really help you out quite a bit. You do not want to be going the same exact build every single game. You don't want to be going the same exact max order every single game. So how you want to approach this is you want to play it out in your head. Hey, this Talon, he is going to want to kill me a lot. He's going to want to do a lot of all-ins. He's going to have lethality. So how you want to play against it is maybe some early armor, and going the Force Pulse max early is going to be rather strong because it is a decent disengage with the slow and can cause quite a bit of damage. And generally when people are playing things like Talon, they're going to be spamming their abilities quite a bit on the minion waves to push in the minion wave. Also, particularly Yasuo's Q, he is going to be creating a lot of Force Pulses with how low of a cooldown on that Q. So just kind of just think out how the lane is going to go and build accordingly. Obviously, this is going to be different with different game states. Hey, if there's a bunch of lethality users, you might even want to look to replace Lich Bane with an Iceborne Gauntlet. It gives you a lot of mana and cooldown reduction and armor. So this really should be just a big note to you out there. I know a lot, it can be very troublesome for new players. They're like, oh, Bjergsen built this and I'm going to build this every single game. I'm going to just try and do this every single game. That is really an incorrect way to approach the game. So make sure that you are adjusting for the different game states. That's going to wrap up my 5 tips for Kassadin. If you have any questions for me, as always, you can hit me up in the comments down below, or you can follow me over on Twitch, or join the Discord and ask me questions there. And as always, guys, take it easy.